In March, Barack Obama will become the first sitting US president to set foot on Cuba in more than 60 years. The presidential visit seen as a key next step towards bridging the half-century divide between the two nations.
The president's judgment was that, number one, going to Cuba was an important step forward in signaling this new beginning between our two countries and peoples, and also importantly that going to Cuba could help enlarge this space that benefits the Cuban people.
His visit will represent a step forward in the improvement of relations between Cuba and the United States. Of course, in order to achieve the normalization of relations between the two countries, the blockade has to be lifted and the territory occupied by the naval base in Guantanamo has to be returned.
Official word of the upcoming Latin American trip, including a stop in Havana, coming first via the president's own Twitter account. He says his upcoming visit will advance US efforts to restore ties with the communist nation and improve the lives of Cubans. Though Obama had long been expected to visit Cuba in his final year, word of his travel plans drew immediate resistance from opponents of warmer ties with Cuba, including Republican presidential candidates.
You would like to think that they would kind of do something good, like free political prisoners, opening up freedom of expression, and all those kinds of things. And so, I'm disappointed in that.
I believe that it would be much smarter, or would have been much smarter, to wait until they had a change in leadership, which has to be coming pretty soon because Raul Castro is 83 or 84 years old. At that time, you have a lot of leverage.
Obama and Cuban President Raul Castro began to thaw relations more than a year ago. Since then, embassies have reopened and steps have been taken to restore commercial air travel. But the White House says there are still serious differences with the Cuban government and that the president will raise human rights and political freedom issues during his visit. The State Department historian's office says President Harry Truman visited the US-controlled Guantanamo Bay and its naval base on the island in 1948. And former President Jimmy Carter has paid multiple visits to the island since leaving office in January 1981. But not since President Calvin Coolidge went to Havana in January 1928 has a sitting US president been to that city. Obama's Cuba visit is planned for March 21st and 22nd. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.